welcome back to the Westland Whirlwind by Airfix, and get ready for a classic ending, a real climax. This one, be prepared, I warned you, and all of that kind of thing. Right, I don't mean this to be complicated, but I've got my helicopter in amongst a load of parts for a church. We won't even deal with that. So what have we got? Well, I've put some bits on at the back. And they brought up something that I'd completely forgotten about in model making, particularly old models, and it might account for why I had trouble getting the two sides of the hull together, and that is very often things don't line up. So when I was putting this tail plane in, it's V-shaped but flat in the middle, so that you can locate it into a recess, and it wouldn't go, and I thought, hey, this should be fine, and I looked at the recess and it's not fine, because the two sides of the hull don't quite line up together, so you end up with the recess being staggered. I think I'll do a little drawing. And while I was waiting for the hull of the helicopter to finally glue together, I put the propellers together. That wasn't a well-planned sentence, was it? And there they are. Not a lot to them, and they're a long way off. Just felt like a change, really. I mean, you can guess what it looks like. We'll see them closer up shortly. But look. There's three things on a white background. That's why you come here, isn't it? That's why you come. These modern artistic shots. So this is sort of the tail end of the hull. The dotted line is the seam between the two parts. There we go. And here's our recess. But because the two parts don't line up, you get one bit there, shaky hand, you get one bit running there, and it is offset against its neighbour. So you end up having to cut that bit and that bit. So it ends up being a bit big, and it ends up being a bit wobbly. So you end up, sorry, I've got the lid of the pen in my mouth. So you end up with a lot of glue, basically. And then you've got the other. Why did I put the lid on the pen? Hello, squawking bird. Then you've got these two other appendages. That one was okay. There's a nice little hole and it fitted, but there was no hole whatsoever. I'd forgotten the world of occasionally you just don't get a hole. So there was a weird form of negative nostalgia going on. I had noticed that the two sides of the hull weren't lining up, and what I've done is intentionally bad paintwork there on this vent, and you can see the massive seam line, and you can't get it to go together, but look, you get a staggered, I don't know if that's completely visible, but this bit here is overhanging. So I've intentionally painted what's there rather than compensate, and you get this stepped situation. So that should have alerted me, and that's clearly the root of all me hull problems, isn't it? And then I've got a propeller on at the back, and that's about it. Oh, I have ventured into the world of one marking, and I thought I'm going to have to do this one before I put that sort of exhaust pipe on, and if it doesn't go well I'll give up and go home. But it went alright. I've got to admit though, I'm not looking forward to doing some of the markings, because they're going to need to be pretty blooming accurate. And that's where we're up to at the moment, folks. Oh dear. Oh, the dogs are barking. Right, before I sneeze, which I'm doing a lot of at the moment, here we are with a good few markings on. They were not as horrific as I was expecting, so I'm moderately pleased. It just means I've got to tidy up some of the paintwork a bit more, which means I'll probably get paint all over the markings. But anyway, there we go. That's one side. Got to do the other now. Do I dare continue with this very, very precise activity? I'm not Mr. Precise, am I? So now we have almost every marking on this side. Not quite every. A couple of tiny little flecks to go, and of course the RAF roundel. But apart from that, there we are. So then there'll be a bit of a paint clear up, and then I'll get the wheels on. And then finally the cockpit canopy front thing. So it's moving on, and it's looking okay. I was expecting worse, particularly of the markings. There we go. Here are my two current Master Pie. That's plural for masterpieces, of course. This one in particular, the tank, and of course the helicopter, are all doing rather well. And I was just saying to myself, this is the point, focus, this is the point at which I start knocking things off. And I knocked the periscope off, precisely as I thought that. Luckily I could find it, and I've glued it back on. All the parts are on this tank now. Come on, apart from the tracks. Why did I leave them till last? You fool. Everything's going to come apart now, isn't it? And then there's this one. All the markings are on. It's wonderful. Oops, it's wonderful to see every single marking on. But I just thought my thought, and look, I turned it round. Oops, yeah, I'm going to do damage now as well. Turned it round, and focus, you monster. I'm going to buy a new one of you. Look, the Royal Navy lettering along the top, it's just vanished. I'd put some fix on, but it was only like one coat and it was very thin, and it obviously wasn't enough. I've walked from the workshop, double doors, to here with it, and somewhere along there it floated off. Shouldn't have done that, should I? Anyway, just got to put the just got to put the front glass on, and obviously the big rotor, and paint some yellow stripes on things, and that'll be it for this one, apart from the missing lettering. I think I'll go on eBay, but we'll finish this one shortly, and then if I ever find any lettering, I'll put it on and I'll show you. What a tragedy. Something tells me we're going to need a part 3. Or are we on part 3? We're going to need an X part, another part. Aren't we? Yes.